Michael Fabjon didn't know it, but this was the last night of his life. He wasn't in a dark alley. He wasn't in some dangerous part of town. He was in his own neighborhood, a place that should have been safe. But as he stepped outside that night, something was waiting. Something that had been ignored for too long. Something with teeth. It happened fast. Too fast for anyone to stop. Too fast for Michael to fight back. 1 second he was just a man walking his dog. The next he was trapped in the jaws of something ruthless. And the worst part? He wasn't the first to be attacked. People knew this dog was dangerous. There were warnings, complaints, fear. But nothing was done. And that night, the price was a man's life. The attack was brutal. The screams, unforgettable. Neighbors watched in horror as the struggle unfolded right in front of them. But by the time help arrived, it was too late. But to understand why Michael died that night, we have to go back. Back to the dog that should have never been loose. Back to the owner who ignored the warnings. Back to the moments leading up to the attack, when someone could have stopped it, but didn't. Because this wasn't just an accident, it was a ticking time bomb. And when it finally exploded, no one could escape the consequences. And this was only the beginning. Welcome to True Crime Stories videos. I welcome you, my viewers, and most especially my subscribers, for your support as we keep improving and bringing you daily told and untold true crime stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Michael Arthur Fabjon Jr. woke up that morning like any other day. He had no idea it would be his last. He was 49 years old. A father, a brother, a friend. The kind of guy who made people smile without even trying. He loved cracking jokes, playing music, and spending time with the people he cared about. But more than anything, he loved his dog, Beastie Boy. Beastie Boy wasn't just a pet. He was family. Michael took him everywhere. They walked the same streets every day, side by side, like nothing in the world could touch them. For Michael, those walks were peaceful. A time to clear his head, breathe in the ocean air, and just be free. Panama City Beach. A place that looks like paradise. The kind of place where people come to relax, to escape. But for the people who live there, it's more than a vacation spot. It's home. A close-knit community where neighbors wave at each other from porches. And the biggest worry is whether the tourists will leave any room on the sand. But behind the sunshine, there were shadows. There was one house on Michael's street that everyone talked about. The house with the dog. A pit bull named Gunner. People said Gunner was dangerous. He barked at anyone who walked by. Lunged at fences. His teeth bared. His eyes wild. He wasn't just a guard dog, he was a ticking time bomb. The neighbors were scared. People warned the owner, Brendan Murphy, again and again. They called animal control. Filed complaints. Begged for something to be done. But nothing changed. And every day Gunner got worse. Michael knew about Gunner. How could he not? But he didn't let it stop him. He kept walking Beastie Boy. Kept living his life. Maybe he thought it would never happen to him. Maybe he believed the worst was impossible. He was wrong. That night, as the sun sank below the horizon and the streetlights flickered on, Michael and Beastie Boy went for a walk. They didn't know what was waiting for them. And once they crossed that invisible line into Gunner's territory, there was no turning back. Because Gunner had finally slipped free. There are dogs that bark, and then there are dogs that don't just warn you. They dare you. Gunner was one of those dogs. He wasn't like other pets in the neighborhood. He wasn't the kind of dog that wagged his tail at kids or sat patiently on a front porch. He was different. People felt it when they passed by. That sense of unease. That instinct deep in their gut telling them to move a little faster, to stay out of his reach. And they were right to be afraid. Because Gunner wasn't just aggressive. He was dangerous. People had seen it. They had felt it. The lunges. The teeth snapping just inches from skin. The way his eyes locked onto someone and never let go. And yet, nothing was done. Neighbors had called animal control. Over and over again. Reports were filed. Complaints were made. People begged for something to be done before it was too late. But every time the same thing happened. Brendan Murphy, Gunner's owner, shrugged it off. He's just protective, he'd say. People are exaggerating. He's never hurt anyone. But that wasn't true. People had been bitten before. Other dogs had been attacked. There were witnesses. A small dog ripped apart right in front of its owner. A woman knocked to the ground, her arm bleeding from where Gunner sank his teeth in. A delivery driver, frozen in fear as Gunner lunged at his truck. These weren't just stories. They were warnings. Warnings that no one listened to. And so Gunner stayed. Chained up. Watching. Waiting. For the next time. For the worst time. And on February 18, 2025, the worst time came. The sun had set. The street was quiet. And Michael Fabjon was out on his nightly walk. He didn't know what was coming. He didn't hear the gate unlatch. He didn't see the dark figure moving toward him, low to the ground, silent, hunting. And by the time he did, it was already too late. Michael steps outside. Beastie Boy by his side. Another quiet night. Another peaceful walk. He doesn't know what's coming. A shadow moves in the distance. Silent. Low to the ground. Waiting. Gunner. Michael doesn't see him. Not yet. But Beastie Boy does. Michael stops. He follows Beastie Boy's gaze. His chest tightens. Then, Gunner is loose. And he is coming fast. Michael barely has time to react before it happens. A blur of fur. A crash of bodies. Pain. Beastie Boy lunges, barking wildly. Snapping at Gunner's legs. Trying to protect his owner. But Gunner doesn't stop. He locks on. Teeth sink deep. Right into Michael's throat. Michael gasps. His hands claw at the massive jaws, crushing his windpipe. Blood spills onto the pavement. Warm. Fast. Too much. He tries to scream. But no sound comes out. Neighbors hear it. The struggle. The terror. A door slams open. Someone yells, "Oh my God." But no one moves fast enough. Beastie Boy bites at Gunner's back, desperate to save Michael. A bat swings. Once. Twice. Slamming into Gunner's ribs. But Gunner doesn't let go. Michael's hands grow weaker. His body jerks once, then goes still. His vision fades. And then, nothing. By the time help arrives, the damage is already done. The sirens wail through the night. Red and blue lights flash against the pavement, against the blood, against the faces of neighbors standing frozen in horror. Michael is on the ground. Motionless. Paramedics rush in. Hands press against his wounds. Voices shout over the chaos. He's still breathing. Barely. They lift him. Move fast. Every second counts. Inside the ambulance, machines beep. Oxygen flows. Blood won't stop. His body fights. But he's slipping. Doctors work fast. Tubes. Wires. Hands pressing. Stitching. Fighting. Every breath is a battle. 5 days pass. Machines keep him alive. His body struggles. His family waits. Prayers. Tears. Hope. Then, setbacks. One moment doctors say there's a chance. The next, they shake their heads. February 9th. The fight is over. Michael Fabjon Jr. is gone. But the questions are just beginning. Michael is gone, but the story is far from over. Now the questions begin. The police arrive. They talk to witnesses. They knock on Brendan Murphy's door. He's calm. Too calm. Questions come fast. What happened? Did you know your dog was dangerous? Why didn't you stop it? His answers don't sit right. Something isn't adding up. And then, he refuses to cooperate. The officers don't like that. Minutes later, Brendan Murphy is in handcuffs. Arrested. Not for the attack, but for obstruction. And what about Gunner? Animal control takes him away. No struggle. No fight. Just a quiet, heavy silence. Then comes the decision. Euthanasia. Some say it's justice. Others say it's wrong. The town is divided. Was this just a tragic accident? Or was this something worse? A crime? A failure? A preventable death? And if someone is to blame, what happens next? A man is dead. A family is grieving. A community is left asking why? Could this have been prevented? Was this fate or failure? The warnings were there. The signs. The fear. But no one acted. No one stopped it. Now it's too late. Michael's family is left with memories. A name on a headstone. A loss they will carry forever. Neighbors still whisper about that night. About the screams. About the helplessness. Some blame Brendan Murphy. Others blame the system. The laws. The ones who looked away. But here's the truth. Michael was not the first. And he won't be the last. Fatal dog attacks happen every year. Warnings are ignored. People think, it won't happen here. Until it does. So the real question isn't why this happened. It's when it will happen again. And who will be next?